How's it going, everyone? This is MindBlank, welcome back to my channel, and I've heard your guys' wishes on retesting low latency RAM on Ryzen with an Nvidia card as well. So this took me a little longer than expected since I thought I could get my hands on a GTX 1080 Ti. In the end, I went ahead and tested with a regular GTX 1080, still a high-end card and enough for us to form a nice and informed idea. I have here the Gigabyte Gaming G1 GTX 1080 for this purpose, which I'm going to overclock to 2050 MHz on the core and 1100 MHz effective VRAM clock. As a side note, related to something I didn't expect, for all intents and purposes this card looks identical to my G1 1070. Anyway, I've kept all testing conditions the same and will be using the same RAM speeds and latencies as previously. 2666 CL16 auto, 3200 low latency, 3600 CL16 auto, and last but not least 3466 very low latency. If you're curious about these timings, all you need to do is watch the initial video where I tested with an RX Vega 64 card. Everything you need to know is in there. Before jumping into the game benchmarks, I went ahead and also ran two non-gaming related tests. So I'll start off with Cinebench R15 multi-threaded. There's a rather hefty boost here for 3466 VLL, considering that this is a 100% CPU bound benchmark. But going from 1712 score to 1764 is pretty significant if you think about it. This kind of jump in score is usually attributed to overclocking your CPU, so it's nothing to laugh off if you've got the right RAM for this. Secondly, I tested with Handbrake and I again saw better performance from 3466 VLL. You would chalk it up to a matter of seconds in difference, but if encoding is your Ryzen machine's main task, then seconds add up and might save you time at the end of the day. Alright, so let's get into the gaming benchmarks and we'll start off with Battlefield 1 as usual. For a more in-depth idea on the matter, I've also tested the 7700K with 3600 CL16 auto RAM. I previously hit a wall with 3600 MHz RAM on Ryzen in this game, but now I broke this wall with 3466 VLL. But with an Nvidia card, the 7700K is still on top in this game, and we can clearly see that it also benefits from these very tight timings, just like Ryzen does. I skipped frame time analysis since we've already done this on the Vega card previously, so we're moving on to The Witcher 3 where things are very nicely stacked up and showing that we are properly leveraging the 1080's power. There's a pretty nice boost with 3466 VLL compared to 3600 CL16, so much so that this Ryzen pair-up is second fastest here. Lows also see a nice boost with 3466, although there's still random dips in this game regardless of the system you're running it on, since it streams very large amounts of assets basically all the time. Rise of the Tomb Raider surprised me last time with a Vega 64 card, but things still stack up the same way with a GTX 1080. It's a smidge faster than the 7700K, but let me go a little beyond what numbers show here. There's areas in the benchmark where the 7700K pulls slightly ahead, and areas where Ryzen pulls ahead. In the end, yeah, it's a wash like the numbers show. There's no clear rule here, so I can say that the 7700K performs better in more CPU bound areas or not, it's just seemingly random, but it's how it happens. Anyway, we are now looking at Watch Dogs 2. Throughout my time and testing with this game, I have found it to have adverse effects to all things non-Intel or Nvidia. Be it Ryzen or Radeon, the game simply runs worse on AMD hardware. That being said, it seems I was originally hitting the limits with the 1070, so the faster GTX 1080 shows the 7700K back on top. Ryzen is by no means bad in this game, and I found the Intel stutter to have disappeared meanwhile. It really is a title that likes fast RAM. I can see it in quicker load times and much steadier frame times across both systems. I've also found GPU utilization to hover above 90% constantly on these systems, so you know neither choice will let you down in the end. And I finally have Ashes of the Singularity, where Ryzen with low latency RAM is on top of the Intel, except when it's also running 3466 VLL. Lows are also pretty much aligned regardless of the system. This is the only title that can't constantly push 90% utilization on the GTX 1080, no matter the CPU. That being said, we're already looking at 110 plus FPS, which is amazing performance for sure. Okay, so now we've looked at Nvidia as well, and while numbers are not so dramatic as what I saw with the RX Vega 64, low latency RAM again allowed me to go beyond what was possible with just, air quotes just, 3600 MHz RAM. Reasons for this also lie in how Nvidia's drivers are built with still lower overhead. It was really nice to see frame rates jump up on the Vega 64 testing side, and if I'd pair a Vega 56 or 64 with a Ryzen 7, I'd certainly drop a little extra dollars on some Samsung B-die RAM that will allow me to reach either low latency or very low latency timings. On the other hand, if you're running a fast Nvidia card, I'd be happy with 2933 or 3200 RAM, not even low latency. Of course, I say this without having tested the GTX 1080 Ti on low latency RAM, which probably would show some nice frame rate and frame times improvements. Anyway guys, let me know your opinion on all this low latency timings affair in the comments below, now that you also have this retest. Don't forget to check out my Patreon page linked in the description, as well as my Twitter account, and thank you for supporting this channel by subscribing. See you next time everybody, bye bye.